Pay close attention, you who usually are taken over by fear, worries, apprehension. Pay close attention. Psalm 91 from verse 5, it says, "You shall not be afraid." You could stop here, am I right? You could finish here. But he says, "You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you." This speech refers to a scenario of war, persecution, and confrontation with the enemy. As you can imagine, if nowadays, where people live in cities, houses, apartments, flats, doors with locks, at times with security companies and guards around, people can be robbed inside their homes. Imagine in the past, when most times they were open, vulnerable to any attack that may come at night or by day, because they lived on open fields, a part of those who lived in cities, which was the minority. Only the rich cities had that privilege. In its majority, the people lived in fields, in camps, and they were subject to the terror by night. Why it says you will not be afraid of the terror by night? Because there are those terrors that attack by night. Thieves, they prefer the night whenever it's possible, because it's harder for them to be seen, to be spotted while people are sleeping. So criminals attack at night. Many who sleep at their homes, in their beds, in the security of their homes, are attacked by night, by nightmares, insomnia, night terrors. Did you know that most suicides occur at night? The person cannot handle the night terror that comes against them, bombarding their minds, saying, "Your life is no good," because at night, the person who has a bad life, they feel worse, because there's a silence, and now they listen to the voices that bombard their minds. And today they are dying without a physical enemy. They are harming themselves because the enemy speaks in their heads, telling them all sorts of destructive words that are worse than those arrows that fly by the day, which speaks the arrow that fly by the day. If there was the night terrors, the night attacks, also there was attacks during the day, because the one attacking an army with arrows, usually they would attack during the day, because the archer needed a good view of the enemy. Arrows at night were fiery arrows with fire to set a city on fire, but during the day they would throw arrows to kill. So the arrow that fly by the day symbolizes the enemies who have their eyes on you, a target on you. For some reason, they hate you and they want to see you stumbling. And most times you feel these arrows in their looks. Sometimes people look at you and you realize it. If arrows could come out of their eyes, you would be in danger. Am I right? Unless you are in the shelter of the Most High, because these arrows that fly from the eyes of people, these arrows that fly by the mouth of people, are arrows that are sharp, lying words, attacking words. So he promises that you can be at peace, that even in the midst of war, when he says 1,000 may fall at your sides and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you, this illustration is of a battlefield. If you have ever watched, for sure you have, even the biblical movies that illustrate the wars of those days, you see that the soldier in the midst of the battle is surrounded by people, surrounded by enemies. And one falls, and another falls, and then another, and one coming from behind, one from the side. So for a soldier to survive this type of attack, they must be outstanding. And they should be protected, surrounded by their companions. And David knew this very well about the battlefields. That's why he said, 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but you don't have to be afraid. You don't need to fear. We had the pandemic, am I right? The pestilence that walks in darkness during the day, everywhere, and nobody was immune from it. Neither rich nor poor. The pestilence spread in the whole world and reaped many souls. But here is written, you shall not be afraid. You shall not be afraid of this pestilence. And even if an arrow can hit you, sometimes the person sees this and they say, but Bishop, there was many people from the church that died out of COVID. There were many people who are good, they fear God, and they are hit by accidents. They get involved in situations that rip their lives away. Why is that? Were they not protected? Well, God promises the final protection in regards to their souls. The body will perish. Sooner or later, it will perish. If he protects the body here from evil, if he chooses to do that, to protect from the evil that attacks the body, he can and he will. But the final promise from God is that nothing and no one will hit our souls. They can take the body, that's not a problem. This is what the primitive Christians understood. They can burn my body, they can saw me in half, they can cut me with the sword, and there's no problem, because this is not my treasure, and here is not my life. Actually, you're doing me a favor. If you remove my soul from my body, now you will do me a favor. There was this understanding, and this is what should be in you, which is the main purpose of overcoming fear. The greatest fear in here, all these fears speaks about the destruction, speaking about the death. 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, speaking about death. The pestilence, speaking about death. So the main topic here is death. And what is the Spirit telling us? You shall not be afraid of death. Pay attention, you who live terrified. Maybe you become terrified just by thinking about death, because you think, please don't talk about it. Let's change the topic. You don't like to think about death. Why? Because you are afraid. And why are you afraid? It's because you don't live in the shelter of the Most High. The truth is one. Pay attention. If you don't dwell in the shelter of the Most High in life, you know that you won't live with Him through eternity after death. So you need to solve this matter in regards to your fear of death. How do I solve that, Bishop? Live in the shelter of the Most High. And how do I live in the shelter of the Most High? Doing His will, giving up your will, not living by your own desires or your own rules. The idea, I make my own rules. I make my own rules. I did it my way. As Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. In other words, I did it my way. No. If you want to live in the shelter of the Most High, so it will be His way. Whoever lives in the shelter of the Most High understands His house is His. When you are living in someone's house, whose rules are they? Just think a little bit. You will live in the house of someone. Whose rules will you live by? And here is the reason that many don't dwell in the shelter of the Most High. They say they want, but they only want the benefits. They want the protection. They want 1,000 falling at their side, 1,000 at their right hand, and nothing coming near them. Nice, but they don't want to subject to the rules of the house. The house has rules, laws. The shelter of the Most High has its rules. He determines His will. If you subject to His will, then you will dwell with Him, and all this protection will be with you, including protection from death. As the Lord Jesus says, "He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live." But they will pass from death to life. And then, what will you do? Will you be on the outside, afraid of all fears that surround you? Or will you come in, where you will fear nothing? If today's video helped you and you know someone that could benefit from it, share it with them, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you may do so now. See you later.